All right, my friends, it is emoji day. It is clay day. It is the best day of the year. Okay, so you have this big ball of clay. I've also provided you with a toothpick, a popsicle stick, and a straw. Now you're going to need to have a bowl with a little bit of water or a Dixie cup or something gross that you can hopefully throw away. If not, you know, I reuse these too, but you're going to need to clean them out really well to get the dirt out. You're also going to need a couple of pencils. I use two or something, you know, kind of thin like this that you can use to help you roll out your clay, and some kind of larger tool to roll it out. I'm using a wooden dowel. You can use a rolling pin. You can use whatever you have on hand. Even a big marker will work. So we're going to take a little chunk off of my clay because I want to have that available for the features that go on top of my emoji. So this is called wedging. This is real. You are smashing your clay a little bit into the table to remove any air bubbles. What happens is, it's also helping me shape this. What happens with the air bubbles is that when we heat the clay up, when we're done, and it goes up to 2,000 degrees, hot air expands. So you've probably seen balloons in the summertime. They grow when you get in the car because the car is so hot. And so if you have a pocket of air, a little bubble inside of your clay, and the clay around it gets cooked and it gets really hard in the kiln, then that hot air expands and expands and expands, the clay eventually breaks and your whole piece explodes. So it's really important to do that wedging where we're kind of whacking it on the counter or the table a little bit to get it nice and hard. Now I'm going to give it a little press. I'm using some recycled clay, so my clay will not roll as well as yours. You will have better clay than me. So just know that when we're working. I'm going to go ahead and put my two pencils down as a guideline. The reason I do this when I'm rolling out my clay is because we naturally tend to roll in a hump, and then our mask wouldn't be even. So this way we can roll it out and make sure it's nice and flat. I've been using this paper for a little while and it's starting to fall apart from the water in the clay, so I'm going to get a new sheet. Always a good idea to work on a piece of paper or cardboard. So I'm going to put those two pencils here as my guideline. And I've smushed my clay a little bit with my hand, and now I'm going to roll it out. So I start by rolling in the middle with flat hands, and I just kind of push back and forth. And you're going to get an oval shape. Go all the way to the edges. You're going to end up with an oval shape. So we're going to push a little. Now we're going to pick our piece up and turn it 90 degrees, and we're going to do it again. See, again, I'm sneaking that math into art. 90 degrees. We're talking about angles in math again. Okay, roll it again, a little bit down. You can see how I'm naturally getting that slump. Maybe you can't see it here. See how I naturally get that slump? It happens to everyone, even me. Now I'm going to go in and roll it again. And by the time we get to the bottom, where it's flat all the way across, our emoji should be a nice size. Okay, so you can see I can't go any flatter because my rolling pin is riding on my pencils. It's perfect. Okay, now we're going to take our popsicle stick. You can also use the toothpick or the pencil if you want as a carving tool. I really like the popsicle stick, and I hold it like this, so I pinch it between my middle finger and my thumb, and then I use my pointer finger as like a guide. So I want to make this nice and round. Got start of it. I'm going to get rid of some of these crumbly edges. Make sure it's nice and smooth on the sides. Turn my whole paper. Now I'm almost holding it like a pencil. Just depends on the angle that I'm cutting. We're going to get rid of these crumblies, and I'm going to round this out a little bit, and that feels pretty good. So this is pretty round. I'm going to peel this up, and I'm pretty happy with the shape. So now, on the back, you can take either the popsicle stick or I use my pencil, and you're going to write your name. Now, don't carve in too deep because you don't want to go all the way through it, and because we are going to be doing some carving on the other side. So I've got S-T-O-N-E. And I'm just going to dump some of these little crumblies, get them out of my way. If you want, you could put the year. So that's 2021. Now I usually have a paper towel around me somewhere so that I can clean my pencil. While it's still wet, the clay will come right off. If you wait until it's dry, it's really hard to get it off. Okay, so feeling pretty good. Now I'm going to use my magic finger eraser and get rid of these cracks on the back. I'm going to smooth out this edge. Get rid of the crumbles. They're of no use to us. Smooth out all of this crackiness. And my edges. I want it to be nice and smooth because as soon as we put it in the kiln and fire it, anything that's not smooth right now will get hard, and it will not soften up at all, and these little crumbles will actually get baked on. Okay, so I've got my name, 2021, on the back. Now I'm gonna go in and sort of clean up the front too. Want to get those little crumbles up, and I'll do a final cleanup of this when I'm done. Now I know that I want to do the heart eye emoji, so I still have my ball of clay from earlier, and I have my scraps. So if you want to use your scraps, that's great. You can. I like to put a little water in mine because mine are drying out really fast. So I just dipped my finger in some water before I knead my clay up. And you can hear those air bubbles popping. It sounds like I'm chewing gum. Those little bubbles pop. And I'm going to go ahead and wedge my clay again. Just really pushing it into the table. Very therapeutic. Okay. Now we're going to do the same thing to do those additive pieces. So the heart eye emoji has 2 hearts for eyes, and it has an open smile. So I'm going to be doing additive and subtractive pattern. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to again take my dowels. Now this time I do want an oval, so I'm going to move this out of the way, and I want an oval so I can cut 2 hearts. So I'm just going to go ahead and roll it up and down. Perfect. Okay, now I can bring my emoji back, and that's going to work really well. I can cut this in half if I want. You can use your pencil to carve. You can also use that popsicle stick, and now I want that heart shape. So I'm going to go ahead and start carving. And I like to use the pencil sometimes. I also like to use the popsicle stick. When we're carving small like this, it gets harder because you have less to hold on to, and it likes to wiggle. Okay. So this is a good start, but I don't like this edge. I'm going to come back in and clean that up. Okay. Now it's looking a little bit more like a heart. So I'm going to use my fingers again to sort of smooth it all out. And I'm going to trace it onto my other piece of clay because I want my heart eyes to be the same. So you can either trace it lightly, like this, or you can go ahead and just carve it out. I'm going to trace it lightly to start, and then I'm going to pick the one heart up off and go back in. You can go in with your popsicle stick if that's easier. Just kind of cut your way around. It does tend to give you straighter edges. Come in here. All right, so now I have 2 hearts. They're not the prettiest yet. They will be. Now you can roll these edges right around like this. Give it a couple little taps. We're going to use our magic eraser finger again to smooth it all out. Smooth my edges. And get rid of the crumbles. Smooth the back. Smoothing the front. The sides. Again, I'm just going to roll this one a little bit. All right, now having my hearts upside down, clean the back side of them, and I'm going to figure out where they go now. Okay, so they go kind of like here. So I'm going to give them a little press, and it's going to leave a little indent as to where they go. Flip them upside down. Now, in order to attach pottery to itself, you have to do a process called scoring and slipping. So I can see my little heart is right here. So scoring means that we're going to just scratch it up. And then my other heart is right here. Can't see it quite as well. Sometimes artists will use a toothbrush for this. And then we want to score this one too. Just sort of gently scratching it up with my toothpick. Okay, now I'm going to take some water. Usually we would use a mix of water and clay. It's called slip. But because our clay is so wet, we can really just add water. So I'm dipping 2 fingers in. I'm trying to get these really nice and muddy wet. I do the same thing to the back of my heart eyes. Nice and muddy wet. And then we're going to attach them and give them a good press. I'm going to do the same thing here. Push that in, attach, and give it a good press. Now I've got some extra water that oozed out. That's fine. I'm going to use that to smooth the edges of my heart and a little bit of my mask. So far I have cut the shape of my mask after rolling it out. I have added 2 pieces. My name is carved in the back before I added those pieces. And I'm about to do my subtractive part. So you can see how that water really smooths it all out when you're done. You just want to be really careful with the water. If you add too much of it, it will crack when it dries and it will turn to mud while you're working on it. So that's why I just dip my 2 fingers in it and use a little bit. Okay, now I want to put the mouth in. So the mouth on this one is a happy mouth. You can make any emoji you want, but this one has a happy mouth. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that in. If I didn't like that, I could erase it with my eraser finger. Easy peasy. And then put a new mouth in, because I'm just sort of scratching the surface here. Okay. Now I'm going to come in with my popsicle stick and I am going to carve out a little bit. So you can see how I'm actually scooping it out with that stick. And I'm not going to go too deep. You just want to scoop it, you just want to carve really shallow. If you carve too deep, you might put a hole in your mask and then you'll see through the mouth and that will be weird. It's happened before, but they made it work. But there's not a lot we can do after that. So put it on like a board or something. Okay. So I've got a good start there. Notice that it's not too deep. Remember, we're going to glaze these. So glaze is a special kind of paint that when we put it in the kiln, we're going to glaze, or we paint it with the glaze, and it's a kind of paint. And then when it gets in the kiln and it gets heated up, it changes color, and the silicates and sand inside the glass, they get really, really smooth. And they get shiny like glass, so it'll be really pretty when these are done. So I'm going to go ahead and put that border back in. Again, I'm not carving too deep, but the glaze, you know, once we get some color on this, it's going to look totally different too. So I'm just going to carve a teeny bit more out of this mouth, put that border in, and then come in with my popsicle stick, get a little bit more out. Border in. You can see sometimes I have to do things like 2 and 3 times just because of these crumbles, and that's okay. Okay, once we get that done, we can come on through here with our water, clean out the mouth and make sure it's nice and smooth again. So our mask is smooth. Our carvings are smooth, our additive pieces are smooth, and our name is on it. So I'm going to clean up my pencil so I can use it again as long as you do it when it's wet. It's easy to clean, or while the clay is wet. Now if you want to hang this, you're going to need to put a hole in it. That's why I gave you the straw. You can put one hole in the middle to hang it off of like a nail or something, or we can put 2 holes in it, and we'll put, that's what I'm going to do for this one. And then we can put like a little wire through it and hang it that way. Okay. So you can see that the hole went all the way through. You can see my hand underneath. We can see that our pieces are attached. We'll go around the edge and just one final check. Make sure that it's all smooth, no crumbles. Make sure our name is still visible. And then let this dry overnight before you bring it in. And we'll let it dry the rest of the way in the classroom. And as soon as it is dry, I will get it in the kiln, and then I will let you know that it's ready to go, and you can come up and we can talk about glaze colors. And I'll send that home too. All right, my friends. I can't wait to see what emoji you choose, and I can't wait to see how they turn out. If you have any questions, send me a note in Schoology.